Bonjour French 101 students. I hope you're all doing well. This week, week 2 of our course, I decided to institute kind of a fun weekly challenge, an optional challenge that each student, any student in the class can decide to take advantage of. You can do it or you can choose not to do it from week to week. So for each week I'll come up with kind of a new creative challenge as a way to give you some extra practice and some skills that we might have more opportunities to practice in a face-to-face class. But since we're an online class, we'll find lots of good ways to be able to practice different skills in French. And looking at your introductions throughout this week, and I've sent you some personal messages there that you can take a look at. And I noticed a lot of people mentioned pronunciation as an area that they were a little concerned about in an online class. So I came up with kind of a couple of cool ideas that you can take advantage of this week to earn 2 bonus points on your first exam. So if you go into my classroom and then into the discussion board, I decided to use our coffee shop discussion board as a place to kind of give you these weekly challenges, and it also stimulates a little bit of conversation there. So when you click on coffee shop, you'll see I've posted a thread called Coffee Shop Challenge Week 2. In French, we would call this Défi de Café Semaine 2. So it literally just means challenge of the coffee shop in week 2. So if we click on here, you'll see that I've given you a little description. Starting this week, I'll begin offering a coffee shop challenge or a défi de café for students who would like a little extra practice in different French skills. So if you complete this challenge, you'll earn 2 bonus points on exam 1. I will post a video in there once this video is finished, of course, and that will help you learn how to complete the challenge. So I'll explain that all to you in just a moment. And in order to submit the place, or the place where you'll submit your challenge, if you go back to my classroom and then into class activities, I posted a new folder here called Coffee Shop Challenges. So any challenges that I offer throughout the semester, you can come here to submit them. So if we click on this folder, here you have the assignment link to do that. So here are your 2 options for this challenge. The first one is, do you remember back on page 6 of the textbook let's go on to the next page. Actually, 2 more pages over. To les salutations familières. Okay, on this page, remember that in video 3, I spent quite a while talking about the French U sound, and I even included a video that has kind of a cool way to learn how to pronounce that sound. Remember, the woman in the video started with an E sound, which is familiar to all of us in English, and then you kind of round your lips as tight as they can go to form the French U sound. So it's like T. So that gives you the sound that you need to practice all these words with the French U. And so what I decided to do was to take all these words you see here in the bottom row of vowel sounds, and what you can do to complete this challenge, option 1, is to practice the French U. So in words like tu, salut, Luc, super, du, and université. Okay, so to complete this challenge, you could take a cell phone video recording yourself pronouncing these words. And don't worry about being perfect. The goal here is not necessarily perfection because you're just getting started in the language. The goal is practice. The more you practice, the better you become. Whether it's a language, playing an instrument, playing a sport, practice makes perfect. And so that's your first option. You can record a video of yourself doing it. The other way you could do this is to do a screencast. Some of you might be familiar with screencasts. If not, the one that I use to record videos for this class is Screencast-O-Matic, and it's really easy to use. To sign up, it's a free service, so you can do it with a Google account, you can do it with an email address, even your Lander email address. You could create an account that way. Once you're in there, basically all you do is click on this little video icon it's going to launch a recorder, and all you do is press the record button. It's going to record everything that's happening on your screen, and then it gives you an option to save it as a link, and you can share that link with me in the folder that I just showed you in Blackboard. So if we go back over to Blackboard, you could click on this assignment link, and then you could share a link with me right here that you recorded from something like Screencast-O-Matic. There are other screencasting websites out there that are free too, but that happens to be the one that I use, and I think it's pretty user-friendly. The other way that you could do this is, as I said, to record a cell phone video. You could email the video to yourself, save it onto your computer, and then you could just browse your computer and attach your video here. So as I said, the goal is just practice, not perfection. So if you complete it, even if you don't feel like your pronunciation of the French U is perfect, I know that you've made the effort to practice it and to really think about how it sounds, and that's what counts for me. The second option that you have for this challenge is to use Google Translate. Okay, I know that every high school language teacher has probably told you never to use Google Translate because it's often full of errors and it might not be teaching you how to think in a language other than English. It's just doing the work for you. I don't really believe that. I think Google Translate has a lot of interesting applications if you know how to use it correctly. So if you look at something like Google Translate, let's go ahead and look at a Google Translate interface here. And all you have to do is go to translate.google.com. And there are two things that you can do to practice pronunciation with Google Translate. Okay, one is you can simply type in some expressions from another language or copy and paste them or even upload a document. So I could take an expression from a formal conversation like bonjour madame, copy it, paste it into Google Translate, and if I press on the listen icon right here, I can actually hear it spoken back to me. So yes, it is kind of a somewhat robotic voice. It's not exactly as natural as a real person would say it, but it's pretty close. So I think it's a good way to practice listening and just to get the sound of the language in your ears. So here's what it would sound like.
Bonjour, madame.
Well, we need to change it to French, don't we? Because then it's going to say it with an American English accent, which is kind of funny. So let's change it to French and listen to it again. And I'll increase the volume a little bit so it's easier for you to hear it.
Bonjour, madame.
So, bonjour, madame. Okay, so it gives you a way of being able to practice it. And Google Translate's so easy to use. And it also gives you the translation at the same time while you're working on it. Okay, I can take another expression from this list that might be a little harder to pronounce at first and just drop it in there. And I can listen to this one too.
Comment vous appelez-vous?
Okay, comment vous appelez-vous? Okay, so this is a good way for you to be able to listen and repeat. The other cool thing that you can do with Google Translate is you can see if Google Translate can recognize you saying these expressions. Okay, so you can say something like, hey, I'm gonna try to use the microphone icon here and I'm gonna say bonjour and see if Google Translate recognizes what I say. Bonjour. Okay, and lucky for me, it understood me. So I know that my pronunciation is at least pretty close to what it's supposed to be. If I were to pronounce it, let's say, with a really strong American English accent, what will happen? Bonjour. Well, it's still understood. So I guess it was relatively close. Let's try it again. Bonjour. It didn't quite get it completely at first, but it was close enough. So I think it's not a bad tool for speech recognition. There are lots of language programs out there that offer speech recognition to evaluate you on your speech and pronunciation in another language, but they're really expensive, like Rosetta Stone or other ones that are out there. And I'm sure you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars improving your pronunciation through those programs. So I think Google Translate is a pretty good way to do this. So for the second challenge, you can do the same thing. You can do a screencast like I explained, or you can use a cell phone video, and you can actually record yourself repeating after the French speaker in Google Translate, and also practicing your own pronunciation of those. Again, like I said with the first option, you do not need to be perfect. I'm not expecting you to sound like a native speaker in French 101. That comes with lots of time and lots of practice. The goal here is simply practice. That I want to know you're trying it. I want to know you're, using creative ways to do that. And I think this is kind of an interesting and creative way to do this in an online course. So if you're interested in doing one of those challenges, I strongly encourage you to try it out. I think it's just a great way to be able to practice pronunciation. And, you're the only one besides me who's listening to you. Nobody in the class is listening to you practice your pronunciation. So it's a great way for you to be able to do this in an online environment. So that's this week's first coffee shop challenge, or défi de semaine, or défi de café pour la semaine de coffee shop challenge for week 2. So as I said, once you've saved your file, your link, or your video, all you need to do is go back here into our Blackboard course here, into this coffee shop challenges folder, and just upload your assignment. Make sure you do it by Sunday, August 30th in order to receive bonus points for that on exam 1. Any questions that you have about this as you decide whether you're going to do it or not, feel free to let me know by email or visit me during my office hours. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bon weekend!